So this is the topic for today, how to up level your spiritual growth. And the first thing to mention on this is, if you really understand the reverence for what this is and what this means in your life and around you, you start to really understand that what you do in life and how you approach your life, it can become so much more incredible and magical as you start to grow in this area. So I have a real reverence for this topic. Let's get into it. So, one of the questions I thought to ask myself, and I actually decided to ask Google just to see what that Google says. But what is spiritual growth? And one of the things that came up to me as I was putting this together was, if you live on planet Earth right now, if you're an intelligent person and you're looking at, and I've written them down here, government, what your parents and ancestors did or didn't do and what they passed down, social media, addictions, financial stresses that we have, conflict in relationships. Sometimes, that worshipping money and status over, deep connection. Obviously, we've got genocide, wars, human trauma happening, people abusing nature, people abusing animals. I think if we made a documentary about this whole planet, it would feel a little bit crazy and apocalyptic. And to be honest, if you live in this world without doing spiritual growth, you're probably quite unwell. Because this is our way to kind of like see this for what it is and actually come to a different space and harmony within ourselves. So if someone's not doing spiritual growth, I just can't imagine how they're traversing this world at the moment. Yeah, because it can seem really, disruptive. But there is another frequency to live in. And so that's what spiritual growth is to me. It's another frequency that we can live in and be in, and that we can eke more magic and inspiration out of. And which kind of means accepting the logical material world for what it is, but looking to find another way in. So I had this slide in a course which I really loved. If you really think about what we're living in every day, we're in a big pantomime. Because if you think about it, we can see the drama and we can observe the drama, and that's the point. We don't want to engage in the drama, because as soon as you start to get in conflict with the drama of this world, and your vibration lowers to that drama, you start to come out of this connection to your spirituality, and you come into this heavier energy. So it's such a great metaphor. James and I talk about this. Sometimes we'll get caught up in something and go, oh, it's just a pantomime, it's just a play happening out. And sometimes when you can see it like that, it gives you a little bit of distance and space to observe what's going on, and then move toward who and what you really are as a spiritual being here. So my thought is the less we engage in the drama, the easier life gets. So instead of engaging in drama, we want to engage in our spiritual growth. And, spirituality encompasses the human experience of seeking meaning, purpose, and a connection to something larger than oneself. That's part of it. And it often involves a sense of awe, interconnectedness, and a belief in something transcendent within ourselves and this divine force of consciousness. There is an intelligence out there. We know that there is, because we can download it, we can talk to it, we can feel it. And so when we flip, this is the big point, when we flip from engaging in the human drama, not that we don't have to feel it, there's always feeling there, and start to catch yourself and say, okay, I want to move away from the human drama around me that's not even mine, and then engage in this and connect to this bigger, deeper meaning, life gets so much more interesting and exciting. So we're going to look at 4 areas. We're going to look at connection. We're going to break them down. We're going to look at meaning and purpose. We're going to look at transcendence, and then we're going to look at personal experience. And so I just want to go through connection being linking to universe, nature, higher power, something else outside of ourselves, as well as the layers of ourselves. The meaning and purpose is not just your life purpose or path. It's collective. It's planetary. It's eco. So we're going to really look at that. With transcendence, we're going to look at how we really can connect to something that's divine and extraordinary, and how we get to that point. And then with personal experience, we're going to look at how we can individually set up our lives, our habits, and what we do every day to actually enable us to connect to this kind of energy. That's what I want to talk about today. Let's start with the first of the 4 quadrants, connection. And this is a big one. I know you all get this because you're all nature lovers, but connection to the bigger natural world. Now, what's interesting about this is Indigenous cultures have known this for a long time, but they've done a study recently, a scientific study. It's called attention restoration theory. And what it says is that humans, when they're focusing on laptops, chairs, houses, life, roads, driving, holidays, planning, whatever, their attention is being drained on some level. There is a deficit. But when humans focus and connect to with nature or something out in the natural world, their attention is being energized. So it's not taking from you, it's giving to you. And that I love that the science has done that study. So it's called attention restoration theory. Nature is feeding you and filling you. So to me, the first part of connection is thinking about the higher power of nature. And it's true when we feel, look at this picture, like this person standing on this beautiful, like rocky outcliffe. When we realize how small we are compared to this vastness of nature, we realize we're in something bigger. When you're in a box in a home, like I'm in this room right now, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of a big person in this small room. When I'm out in nature, I am the little one, and there is a whole lot of energy out there that makes me feel expanded and expansive. Not to mention, it's usually free of Wi-Fi and other human frequencies and noise. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and I've got this picture, and everyone knows I'm obsessed with horses, but beyond horses, the reason I'm mentioning this around connection is nature, animals, plants, anything non-human constructed, like that's in the natural organic world other than a human, everything has a spirit, everything is alive, everything has a frequency. So if you really want to up level your spiritual growth, you'll start to talk and communicate and realize that every living organism, a plant, a flower, a horse, you know, an insect, anything has its own frequency and resonance. And it's interesting that horses, I mean, as you guys know, I do equine therapy. Horses are so effective in therapy. And I think that's partly because, yes, they do mirror our emotions and they respond to, they're telepathic. They respond to the slightest subtle fluctuations and they don't have judgments and expectations. Hence, it's a safe therapy. However, I think it's bigger than that. I think we can see the majestic nature in horses. You know, they look amazing. They're beautiful. They're people immediately see them and there's a different energy and resonance. And I see it because people come to my house and as soon as they're with the horses, they're different. So whatever that is for you, dogs, horses, cats, trees, a beautiful flower, a plant, whatever that is, remembering that spiritual growth is about understanding everything, you know, is alive and has frequency. And some frequencies fill you up and get you closer to a divine connection, and some take that away from you. That's including people, but that's part people for a whole different conversation. So think about this, the concentric rings around you. So this is really important. Like there's the physical you, there's family, friends, acquaintances, work colleagues. And then as you go outside the rings, there's this, that's what I said, nature, animals, and then there's the earth, the sun, the universe, the cosmos. And then, of course, if you studied any of our healing modalities, you can go into the void and you can go further out into lots of different frequencies. So, awareness of this state and place and being able to connect to it regularly is massive for your expansion. I can't even describe it enough. Like when people don't understand, if once you know, you know. And so just you walking through different energy fields, a park, a building, with an animal, watching it. But we'll talk about the knowing field in a minute. But watching a bird in action, that is giving you some sort of frequency hit and shift. And the awareness is the key. Because someone can go away to a nature-based holiday and just stare at nature and not really feel it, but to actually feel it and to listen to it and connect. And knowing that the space in between you and the bird or you and the tree, that concentric ring, there is no space. There's this, you're touching on an energetic level, not a physical level. And like I said, my therapy is my horses. And when I feel like I need to connect more deeply, I've been doing this for a really long time. I'll go straight out into nature with my horses to anchor me in my first original connection. Once I've done that, you know, it opens me up to do more. And then I practice my skills on communicating with this guy who's had an injury recently. And because he is an abused horse and doesn't like being touched in certain places, it's forced me to create more energetic connections of trust rather than just forcing him to be massaged. I've got to like pick up his back feet and massage them and that's where he was injured and abused. So you can imagine how excited he is about that. But that's giving me this beautiful opportunity to yeah, keep going. And what I found really interesting is people talk about grounding a lot, like go and get ground after a session. There is a reason that we do this. If anyone's ever read Clint Ober's book, The Earthing book, he was an electrician that realized that when he was wiring houses, he had to ground the points. He had to ground the electrical circuits into the earth so that we didn't blow ourselves up. And then he realized that by grounding into the earth, there was a harmonic frequency. So he started laying in the earth, and then he was healing all of his injuries in the earth by connecting to this frequency. And we know that the earth frequency, the Schumann resonance, is 7.83 hertz, whereas a mobile phone tower is 3 million hertz. So you can see that there is a different resonance in nature when your skin is on nature. So don't go out in shoes. If you're going to ground, it's bare skin to the earth. And if you think about it, people go into nature to connect to bigger things than themselves. Think about the Camino. I've got a client of mine that did one of our classes that she was an alcoholic, and she walked the Camino to walk through her issues and fractures and shadows around her alcoholism. And now she walks the Camino and uses some of the coaching tools she's learned from Rezinate to coach other alcoholics to become sober. Why do they do that? Why is the Camino so important? It's a journey between you and nature and you and yourself. It forces you to sit with yourself and go inward. There's no distraction unless you take your mobile phone on the pathway and read that, which is highly undesirable. I used to do a lot of nature walks, and my assistant used to say, Debbie, why don't you go and get some videos when you're out for Rezinate, when you're walking in nature? And I'm like, because I don't want to take my phone. I don't want to be busy videoing when I want to experience it. So it's so important to think about that. And so I wrote here my notes, this quietness, this low frequency hertz, this sense of being in a vast space, restoring your energy, connecting to harmonic frequencies. This human energy field that we have in ourselves, when we connect with non-human energy fields, that's a game changer. I'm going to say that again. When our human energy field connects with non-human energy fields, it's a game changer because we're not talking in logical linear steps. We're connecting to a deeper, more connected spiritual side of ourselves, which is why I love that animals can't talk. I think, I wish my dog could talk and tell me what was wrong. And I'm like, no. Can you imagine if your animals could talk English or language to you, or your horses? My horses would be like, carrots, 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 carrots. It's just like, I prefer the whinny, way better than carrots, carrots, more. So yeah, it's really exciting to really test yourself spiritually to connect with that which doesn't have language. Which is why, Shinrin Yoku, the Japanese term for forest bathing, is so important. And, we plan to, Resonate is launching a nature healing modality next year because we feel that healing through the understanding and the network of nature and the natural world is the next level in human generational healing. Like, it's what we're doing now is amazing. This is just another way in to really form a better connection to the earth as well as heal. So, like I said, it's a big part of your healing. What I love about this is there's a great deck of cards. I don't use a lot of cards anymore, but if anyone ever gets their hands on the Vision Quest Tarot, it does the tarot through earth, fire, water, and air. So it's very different to a normal tarot, but it's really interesting. And there's the big medicine wheel, which is the great wheel in the tarot, and you'll see that on that image. I took a photo of it. The eagle, the white buffalo, the human, the snake, the big cat, and it has a little thing in the has a description in there. Part of that card says it behooves man to remember his or her place in the great medicine wheel, meaning we are part of a big ecosystem. We are part of something that has karmic evolution going on, and when we start to fall into sync with that and realize that we're always turning on this evolutionary scale, we start to kind of disconnect from this self-centered place of I'm just a human, the world's happening to me. I'm not sort of part of something bigger. It is a genuine human need to feel connected to something bigger. We are not solo players. We are connected to something. It's just, what do you want to connect to? And to me, spiritual growth is connecting to this greater evolutionary energy that we live and breathe in. That's a big one for me. So when we come into transcendence, this is an interesting one because I've written here a sense of something beyond the ordinary, something sacred or divine. It's something where there's patterns and an evolutionary. What does transcendence really means? Rising above. It doesn't mean not being who you are. In fact, in some ways, it's going within more than anything. But it's saying that there is something ordinary, anti-ordinary, rather than ordinary. Because if you just operate here in the mundane level, you're never truly getting to that extraordinary place. And if you think about this basic, and I heard this a long time ago, we are not plugged into a wall. Like, this picture of we don't recharge like a Tesla car, or like we don't put, anything in us, electricity to be alive. Our heart and energy, like on this right-hand side, we're a thriving, energetic being with a torus field of energy all around us. And we're swimming in that sea of energy. So we are not just a, human skin sac. We are literally an energetic being that has this ability to pump numerous amounts of blood through our body and walk around. And we hold conscious data. So this image on the right, we hold conscious data in our field about ourselves. And then what's amazing is when we come in contact with someone else, our data bumps with their data. Think about it. Our electrical magnetic energy bumps with something else. And you know when it feels good because you get a good vibe feeling, and you know when it feels bad because it feels repelling. So if you actually stop and think about that for 1 second, think about that incredible, extraordinary gift of you walking around as your own unique electricity field, which then begs the question of what do you let into that field? What do you put into that field? How good are your boundaries around that field? So spiritual growth is saying, I revere and respect this beautiful energy field. Who am I going to hang out with? Where am I going to go? Where am I going to spend my time? What fields of energy am I going to spend my time in? Because if you're locked your way in a room working a corporate job for 12 hours a day, does your energy field want to be locked up in that box for 12 hours a day? Or does it want to go out and experience more harmonic frequencies? Such an interesting thing. So that's step one of just being absolutely aware of that. And also trusting it. When your field of energy bumps someone else's field of energy and doesn't like them, leave. Or figure out what's bumping your field and fix it. Because someone can trigger you and it's your issue, not theirs. Which then leads me to the second one is the key shamanistic principle. If like people go, what is shamanism? It's a simple fact. Everything is alive and everything can be communicated to. That's pretty much how it goes. So this person's sitting up on the tree. There is an aliveness and an intelligence in everything around you. So spiritual growth says, I'm aware that I can communicate with anything. I can communicate with the spirit of my house and ask it whether it's happy. I can communicate with the spirit of my car, the land around me, the wildlife, my pets, the trees, my plants. I'm often connecting in with my plants saying, do you like the position that you're in? That's when we really start to live and breathe. It's not just I meditate once a week or I go to a cacao ceremony. This is I'm living and breathing this energy all the time. And I'm starting to really fall in love with it. So just remember that you're always walking around through fields of energy. And there's always other ways to connect on a deeper level by stopping and listening and downloading the wisdom. You could literally sit and stop at a tree or in a park. And if you wait long enough and make an intention, you can download that wisdom that's floating in the air like invisible radio waves. You can also ask a tree something if you wait long enough. That's sort of step two of it. The last one, which I absolutely love, and it kind of carries on from that, is this picture is an example of a flock of birds. It's the knowing field. So there's a name for it. There is a field around you that has patterns and cycles and systems that's talking to you all of the time. Because if you're in that field, your energy vibration is impacting that field. So if someone runs into my horse paddocks and they're super stressed, my horses will look up and freak out. And they're like, what's going on? But if someone walks in there and they're super calm, they're like, oh, someone's come in that's calm. Think about it. When you go anywhere, the field is reacting to you. So if it's a crazy like traffic day and everyone's like bugging you on the road, that's you in the field attracting that. If you're going somewhere and you have magical experiences and wildlife comes up to you, you're attracting that. If you bump into a million people at the supermarket and they annoy you, you're attracting that. This field is always talking and reacting to you. So watching the reaction of the field around you will tell you what state you're in. It's nonverbal and it's nonlinear. But if you tap into it, you'll see patterns. You'll connect to great mystery. You'll see miracles happen. You'll see innovation. Innovation will happen. If you're really connected into the field, innovation will hit you. And in fact, I don't know whether you know this. I know James talks about it, but people that patent things or invent things, often five or six people will try and submit the same patent or invention at the same time. And one obviously gets in first. And that's because it's like it downloads out of the field. It's like consciously it comes through the field and it hits all of us. And whoever's the fastest gets their patent approved. So it's interesting that the consciousness comes out and drops. So you are more creative and innovative when you're connected to that field of energy, the natural intelligence. So when you're starting to do more of that, you'll notice that you become more creative, opportunities open up more for you, and you can see clearly where you're stuck or blocked because the field will always talk to you. So living in balance with this field means that you'll get left field answers, you get relief from suffering, you'll start to kind of connect deeper into everything around you, which means you can read energy better, read humans better, read situations better, make better decisions. That's really exciting. Does anyone have anything they want to ask in the chat group at the moment? Everyone good? Yay. So this one is what everyone asks me. And in fact, I'm obsessed with this question. Why am I here? I have had hilarious conversations on airplane flights where I've been sitting next to one time I sat next to a real estate agent and an operations manager, and by the end of it, like I had them all like thinking about their purpose and they wanted to buy my book, and it was like a coaching session live, accidental, but it's just an obsessive question to me, and that is why are you here, and what is really, what are you doing in this time in this location? If you think about it, why are you in a female or a male avatar in this city, in this country, in this era? So that to me is part of your spiritual growth, is figuring out why you're here. And what I mean by that is that you can talk about life purpose, which is, what am I here to do as a person? You can think about eco purpose. What is my impact on this planet? Well, why are you here in Earth at this time, at this place? You also have a collective purpose. Why are you in this culture, this social programming, this family, this system, this kind, like why? This is a particular time to be alive. And yes, I think we have lots of incarnations, but there's lots of different levels of purpose. And of course, you have a higher self purpose. And I put a little asterisk to that because I think we all have the same higher self purpose here on Earth. And I'll explain what that means in a minute. So these are the four things I'm just going to talk briefly to right now. And I'm going to give my examples so that you can maybe start thinking about for yourself. So obviously the life purpose one is all about, what am I here to do? How am I going to show up in this world? And it can be commercialized into a paid job or not. I like it to be commercialized just because I think if you're going to go out there and make money, and if you have to make money, why not love it? To me, everyone probably knows my formula pretty much on that is you're always here to do your greatest challenge, and solve your greatest wound. And James and I have chosen to run the Rezinate School of Spiritual Intelligence, SQ. But even beyond that, I would say my particular one is bridging the masculine and the feminine. So the feminine is spiritual healing work. The masculine is making a structured business out of it. So I am in the game of helping people learn the skills and go out and do this kind of work in the world. That's what I feel was mine. And I can directly translate that to my own personal challenges of the masculine and the feminine. So that's my personal purpose. I've chosen to go down that channel, that vehicle. But because, I could have gone lots of different vehicles that still match my purpose, but that's a very beginning level, which I'm hoping you're all somewhat aware of what yours is. Eco purpose is a little bit different. Eco purpose says, and this is mine, how are you impacting the planet? I mean, you live on this planet. This planet's like an extra body. It's an Earth Mother body. And it doesn't mean you have to be some great humanitarian that does all these environmental changes. It's just how are you actually impacting the planet? I have felt like my eco purpose is about interspecies communication. How do we respect and care and talk to the wildlife that's here? And particularly, I have a passion for rehabbing horses. It's an expensive hobby. Don't recommend it unless you've got tons of money, which I don't. So I'm constantly forking out. But that is my passion. I've always loved animals. I almost wanted to be a vet. When I left school, I did, and then I realized the veterinary industry didn't really do what I wanted to do with animals. So for me, that's mine. But for some people, it's plastics, and for some people, it's something different. It's the ocean waters, or find yours, because when you find that unique way, and it doesn't have to be this big I volunteer for 50 hours a week. It might just be how you show up to the earth and how you want to be in harmony with it. But when you really figure out how you want to make a difference there, or how you want to impact the work, that eco purpose brings you a lot closer to your spiritual self, because you are here, and it's a respect for the divine body that is the earth mother. Doesn't mean you're perfect in all areas of your environmental habits. It just means I've chosen something that's meaningful to me. So, collective purpose wise, I feel for me, and you have to work your own way out around this. Collective purpose is why are you here at this time? Like we could have all been, I think we're all women on this call, aren't we? We could have been born like in the 1920s when we couldn't vote. Or my grandmother, when she was born in 1927, she's still alive now, she's 98. She was born in 1927. She could only do two jobs. She could be a nurse in the war, or she could be a nanny or a secretary or something. She couldn't be a school teacher. She couldn't do anything else. So why are you born now? I feel like I am part of the consciousness revolution going on, as just me personally. And I also feel like I'm learning and here to rise above shadow, division, and doubt. I see a lot of people fighting causes and getting really upset with what's happening in the world. There's always roles for that. I don't feel like I need to engage in that fighting. I feel like I'm trying to find unity and light other people up. That's my collective purpose. I want to light other people up. Everyone that works with me knows that I'm their biggest cheerleader. Like, you tell me you want something, I'll help you get it. I'm here to evolve with conscious people. I fire unconscious people. I have fired clients that have come for unconscious reasons. I don't want to work with people that aren't conscious. I only want to work with agents of change. It's not about a judgment. It's just that's my collective purpose for being here. I feel like I'm here to witness that and to like shift that along the way. So I'd love you to think about yours. If you're here for your spiritual growth, what are you doing in the collective whole that's adding to this world, and in what, how in a unique way? And it might relate to your life purpose, which mine does, obviously. Um, and then, of course, higher self purpose. I think we're all got the same thing to learn here, by the way. I think I believe, and I've done a lot of study on this, and so has James, we've looked at this endlessly. I think we're down here on planet Earth to learn to become conscious creators, learn to manifest, to let go of the fractures, to rise above shadow and entrapment. And entrapment might be, parents, government systems, pharmaceutical, school expectations, money expectations, fighting with neighbors, whatever that is. But I believe that we're all here. Our higher self has sent a fragment of ourself here to learn how to consciously create. And if anyone's ever looked at Dolores Cannon's work, she talks about it. She has a bit of a laugh going, it's a prison planet, like as in it's a school of hard knocks, but we are trying to learn how to properly and ethically and consciously create. And some people can create in some areas and not others. So whatever your area is of not being able to create, start mastering it. Money has always been a thing for me, but for other people, it's, relationships or love or whatever that is for them. So think about it. What are you really trying to, how are you becoming a conscious creator here? And have you mastered the art of working with the field, manifesting in this knowing field? It's a big one. I'm going to pause it there for just a minute. Does anyone want to ask a question? It's a big slide. Does anyone want to ask a question about any of that? Might be too late to leave it to the end. If you do, either type it into the chat or you can quickly unmute yourself.
You there, Deb?
Everyone. Yes, yes, Joe.
I've got a quick question. It's more probably the previous slide in cooperation with this one. Being a parent, I don't know how many parents are in this chat, but when you're in a household of a lot of people together, like you're in this, the magnetism is what I'm going to be drawing on to in that creative purpose. When you're in a field and you're doing the work of the spiritual work and you're doing this magnetism, I'm doing a lot of creating at the moment. And what I'm finding is sometimes that energy field for me can be quite disruptive because you've got 5 other energies you're living with.
Yeah.
Maybe even housemates for that example.
Yep.
In my situation, it's partner and children, and there's a lot of, because there's such big world collective energy around them, the energy that brings in, just in that keeping alignment. I'm pretty good at keeping alignment, but in that space, in that container, do you have any tips on that kind of magnetism you're talking about?
No, you can't be fully connected when you've got demand. So you'd have to find your space away from the house or somewhere outside, either in a room or I'd even suggest away, Joe. So yes.
Which I do. I'm just thinking more of that as a space of, is there a way, and I don't mean influencing the energy, but your light, your energy, your alignment field becoming their energy as well is probably where I'm trying to also embrace it from the other way as well, like a radiance of light, that kind of picks the energy up in the house. But I do find it hard to be in that collective purpose when there's so many ideas. Like I've got a gorgeous daughter who's completely political. And it's interesting when you're talking about purpose. We've got 5 people's purposes in one container.
Do you know what's really interesting about that is that's a great example, is to be able to see and observe the pantomime slide, Joe, to see and observe everyone else's, but just not buy into it. Because I've got and I'm not being disrespectful, but I've got a lot of people that are kind of contacting me about the Palestine-Israel thing, and I can listen and observe and talk, but I'm not going to get in that gritty heaviness of it. Because if I was in a role where I could do something about that, sure, but I'm not. And so it's about seeing and witnessing and observing everyone else, but saying I'm still swimming in my own swim lane. It is a highly spiritual power, big spiritual power to swim in your own swim lane and hold your shape and not get caught up in the others. So Joe, as a lot of people in a family home, you got a really big challenge and you can do it. Don't get caught up in their swim lane. Every time, catch yourself, reset to yours. If you have to leave the house to do it or get out for 30 minutes or go into nature and reset, do it. If you have to lock yourself in the shower and the bathroom for 30 minutes and light a candle and meditate, do it. It's about you staying in your swim lane and not letting anyone else's purpose put you off path, and that's hard. Yeah, thank you. Good question. It's hard, but you know that's your challenge. And by the way, they eventually move out, Joe. So eventually you'll be free. No, just kidding.
No, but I'm actually loving it, to be honest. Because they're teaching me so much in that purpose too, right? It's not a negative thing. It's just more of a connection of the energy field that's in a container when you have a family.
Well, you might even have a 5th one here, Joe, called family purpose. That's a little bit different. That's what is the purpose of our family unit? What is that? What does that mean? And then be okay with what that is, because that might mean your family purpose might be to find your own calm in the chaos, or it could be whatever that lesson is for you. But it's tough. Absolutely. I think people find tough in corporate organizations as well,
It's so much tough, but it's a good challenge.
It's a good challenge. That's right. That's right. And what's really interesting is, if you're thinking about purpose to up level spiritually, once you know what it is, you need to go for it. I would say procrastination on your purpose is a spiritual decline. It's almost like there's no excuse. I'm not judging that. I'm just saying once it's like, so it's overcooked in the use by date once And when I say purpose, it doesn't mean that you have to immediately start that business or enact on it. It's just you can live and breathe your purpose on a values level every day without having to open a business or create a project. It does take away from you once when you're not following it. It starts to deplete your energy. So Yeah. And the other thing, guys, is I've seen this happen a lot. A lot of people, when they're burning out from a corporate job or life, and it especially happens with men in the corporate world, but anyone, it's a really high incidences of men in the corporate world wanting to leave their corporate job and become a firefighter. That's a really common thing. And I've looked into this and I've talked to people about this. It's because they burn out, they don't know who they are, they don't know where to go, and they just try and pick the most great grandest like thing they could do that would protect people or be a good person, and so they go straight to that kind of like role or something that feels like yeah, they're doing something really good for humanity. And what they're failing to do is, when they're burning out, is to sit, be still, come back to themselves, find their field, find their purpose, and then reset. So there's a lot of like jumping to, this will sort my problem out. And so apparently the firefighting institutions can see them coming in gung ho, they train, and they realize that's really not their life purpose, and they leave, you know. So don't mistake burnout or stress or fatigue for trying to just jump to another purpose. Really take time to sit and deeply think about your path and make sure it's something that really relates to, you know, what you stand for and who you're about. Um, so the last part of this then is, which is the main part, is personal experience. And a lot of us have probably in younger days were like out partying, and we've probably changed our habits more to be a little bit more zenned out if you're into spiritual growth. It doesn't mean you can't drink, by the way. It just means that the way you spend your time is evolving and changing as you spiritually up level. And I remember, you know, even just myself, I wasn't necessarily a big drinker, but some of the activities I did have just evolved into a different way now as you start to spiritually grow. And if you did watch my talk from last month, I'd highly recommend you watch it. I'm not going to go through this slide again, but this slide was the 7 layers of the field and how it all organizes itself. That's part of it. Knowing these layers of you is part of your own personal development. So I won't go through it again, but that's an important talk to watch if you haven't watched it. But just a reminder is the biggest part here in personal experiences, you are not your thoughts, even though they come from you and you're responsible from them. There is a greater aspect to you, and that's that spark of life force within that's beyond thought and action. So this is where we're coming to with our personal experiences. How do we feed that? Because we can feed our brain with language and learning and vision boards and like work projects and holidays, and we can feed ourselves with that sort of stuff. But how do we feed ourselves on a spiritual level personally? Well, the first one is self-inquiry. And it's almost like being able to sit and reflect and face yourself. And I believe that is questioning decisions, beliefs, social programs, opinions of others. That's really what it comes down to. You know, really looking at the programs of everyone else around you. And one of the best things you can ask yourself when you do self-inquiry is this opinion or belief true for me anymore? You know, is there another way? You know, was this my mother's belief or my belief? What would I do if I wasn't with a partner? Or how do I feel when I'm away from my friends? They're all things that transcend the mind and start to go a deeper questioning around how you want to show up in the world as an energetic being. So it might be something that you do once a week as a journaling, or it might just be something that you do when you're having a struggle. Um, you know, like what even Joe's question before, you know, is there another way for me to be more on purpose that, you know, but still I can spend time with my family and not be hijacked, or, you know, just, you know, even family structures in and of themselves. Is this family structure and set up the best way for us to all work? You know, maybe being congested in a small home together isn't actually a great way for families to be. I'm not sure. It's just that is part of your spiritual growth, and that is asking for that self-inquiry and really spending time questioning your belief systems and programs, and what your friends say and think, and what your peers say and think. So you may not agree when you deep down ask. The other thing that I would suggest is I'm not going to go into this a lot, but we all know that if we want to spiritually grow, we have to deal with our shadows and fractures. And our greatest enemy is our own fears and the way that we try and control through our mind. So, you know, But the reason we teach so many different healing styles is because there's many ways in to deal with shadows and fractures. But if we don't deal with those, they sit like little blocks to our own sense of peace and connection. So to me, that work, that self-inquiry work, then leads us to dealing with shadows and fractures. And I'm going to go back to Joe's example in the family around, what do our family pull out of us? There's a really great quote saying, if you think that you're spiritually enlightened and at one with yourself, go and spend a weekend with your birth family and see how you feel. Like how well do you cope with those Christmas get-togethers, or go and do that. There's also another one that I'm big on, which I'll go to the next slide, but sitting quietly on your own and not letting your mind race and take over it means that you have really started to nail your spiritual growth. Having time alone. If you can't sit without a device on your own and just sit and be with yourself, that is a block to your spiritual growth, because we're always so activated and we're always so distracted. So yeah, just really interesting thought around that. So if you go on to that, meditation, a personal meditation or practice, doesn't have to be meditation, or sacred time is huge for me in your own spiritual growth. Like I said, being quiet and still and centered. You watch when you sit still. Are you tapping a foot? Is your body agitated? Can you actually sit still and centered? And I don't mean in the yoga pose where you're all uncomfortable and got no back support. I mean, however you're sitting physically, can you just sit there and be centered? And in my mind, the way to start to do that is to tap into those body awarenesses and senses. So whether that's sound or smell or textures or what you're eating. I know for me, I have a nighttime ritual now where I'm really big on, when it's the end of my day, I put on a certain set of music that just kind of puts me into a rhythm. I'll light something like a candle or an incense, but it has to smell good, like it needs to be whole and like an essential oil. Or I'll spray and I'll put on low light. And then I'll just kind of maybe do a bit of reading or just centeredness. And that is a way for me to acknowledge that I'm actually ignoring the outside world and I've changed frequency. So yes, I do this all day in my work. I do healing, I do meditation, but for myself, I want to say that I've acknowledged that I've shifted frequency, even if it's 10 minutes, although I do it for longer than that. Some people go surfing. Some people, I mean, I do horse stuff. James and I went out into our paddock last night and spent about an hour out in the dark with our horses, and it was hilarious. Just the shenanigans going on also creates like an energetic shift. But yeah, whatever that is for you, I don't mind if it's a moving meditation to start, but at some point, sitting still. Because even moving meditation, you're actively doing something. When you learn to sit still and quiet, that allows the space. And I'm going to say that again, that allows a big amount of space for things to drop. And I promise you, I've been doing this for a really long time. And until I can stop and be still and allow spaciousness, then these beautiful moments drop. I do get those in meditations as well when I'm delivering them, because I do them live. So that's, yeah, big for me. The other thing I'm knowing and understanding more is tapping into creative pursuits to find your spiritual growth as well. I've always been creative in some ways, but I didn't realize the power of it. And someone in our group, her name's Sam, she actually teaches people to spiritually up level via getting them to be creative. So she chooses different creative things to do. And I think it's because it switches that right brain on, and the right brain is our spirit brain, and it switches that into a different flow state. Again, it's not logical and it's not linear. So if you want to explore more of your spiritual self, start to dabble in how you find your creative energy flowing. And remember what we said about before, very early on in this talk, we talked about the fact that you're here to consciously create, to be able to learn to manifest in this reality. It's like a training ground. So part of being able to consciously create means that you can actually, start to manifest better with your conscious creation. No worries, Joe. Thanks. Gotta go. No worries. We're almost at the end. So that's really important. And lastly, is the somatic body connection. So your body holds a lot of wisdom. So if you're ignoring your body, you're ignoring a big part of your spiritual growth. It will tell you what's in or out. It will tell you what's going on. We did an incredible meditation yesterday in one of the classes. There was just 5 of us doing a somatic body exercise. And the amount of different stuff that came up and the extraordinary messages that came out of the body, it's like it's pretty exciting. There's 2 main types of intuitive skills when we connect to the body. There's the proprioception, which is where am I located in my space-time location. I'm here in this room, in this office, in this country. That's proprioception. It's my location in space and time. Predominantly, we do it through our jaw and our hips, which means we often have a lot of issues in the jaw and the hips because that's where we orient the 2 main points. And then there's interoception, which is traveling inside the body and understanding what's going on. That is another massive part of it. Remember, we're trying to break out of the logical and linear mind and what it thinks it knows and work on another level of wisdom and connection. And one of those is the body. The body doesn't respond in a logical, linear voice. It doesn't say, Debbie, you need to go and have more rest now. It's like it tells me in different ways. So when we start to connect into it, it will give you so much information. And remembering that your spiritual growth does mean that you have one foot in both worlds, the great red road, the world of physical and everyday life, and the great blue road, the road of the spirit. Be here in the middle. Be here in the middle. Be in both. Like you want to be grounded and you also want to be spiritually connected. I've had very funny conversations about dogs versus aliens. And for those of you that have heard this brief story, I've had people say to me that they're trying to connect and talk to, the blue beings on the 40th dimension or whatever they've said. And I'm like, well, it's great that you're considering going up there and conversing with some star beings, but what about just talking to your dog first, opening up a dialogue with your dog or your cat or the tree in the backyard? Let's just be here. You are on this earth and of this earth. Let's connect with those energy fields. If you're a master in all of those energy fields and you can read and feel and connect and create this incredible experience and connection, then yeah, if you want to go more cosmically, great. I'm not saying you don't want to go cosmically. It's just be here and do the work here because that's why we're sent here, to be creators on this planet. So life is happening for me, not to me. We don't want to feel like life is happening to me. It's really happening. Whatever's happening in the field around you is happening to show you something, to help you connect to something and to feel something. So last thing before we finish up for today is I want to talk about the life stages of spiritualities. I will kind of put this into a funny little grid of, here's what we're thinking. We should be thinking spiritually. I'm not saying we do as a baby. I'm alive. I have value. I deserve love no matter what. That's how we should arrive here in this world. I'm just alive. I'm a bundle of light and energy. I'm here to be looked after. I'm here to be loved. That's that first principle. When you're a child, you start to realize you can create. If I push the dishes off the sink, they might smash into the ground, or I can throw my toys out of my cot, or I'm understanding cause and effect. I'm realizing that I can voice something and I can get a response. There's that kind of exploring the world, which is why it probably drives their mothers insane. But yeah, that's that spiritual evolution. As a teenager, you're starting to create boundaries and have your own identity outside your parents. There's a bit of grittiness and awkwardness as a teenager. And you're starting to build early trust with people and starting to realize you have a mind of your own and you have decisions. Again, can be complicated for parents with those boundaries. Young adults, when you're out of school, I'm responsible for myself and my actions. There starts to be this spiritual responsibility, and they realize their future is theirs to create, and freedom is in their own hands. It's just whether they can do anything with it at that point. But that is the spiritual kind of action there. As an adult, this is all of us. I am not responsible for anyone else's awkward feelings. I'm finding my purpose, doing my deep work, and finding my authenticity. You really start to need to learn that you can swim in your own swim lane, that you're responsible for your own energy field, and you're the only one that's going to do the work on yourself. As an elder, I'm ready to teach what I've learned and act as a guardian for the next generation. So it doesn't have to be teaching spirituality, but it's more like I'm starting to give advice and instruction. And you might have less friends, less acquaintances, but hopefully deeper connections, or, you're more aware of what you need as an elder. And of course, if you're a wise master ready to transition to the next life, hopefully living from a higher mind, really not needing to do anything or achieve anything, but maybe cleaning up that karma, ready to transition to the next life, getting clarity on your lessons. James had this beautiful woman in her late 80s come to James for a session. It was her first ever healing session. It was about 6 years ago. And James goes, "Oh, what are you for?" And she said, "Oh, I just want to make sure when I go into my next life, I've got to clean my karma up." And he's like, "What? That is insanely cool." Like, she's thinking about her next transition and she's like, "I just want to clean up. I'm holding on to some stuff that happened to me as a kid and I want to clean it up." That was so cool. So yeah, that's just something I thought about of these transitions. And I know there's a lot more to that in those life stages, but most of us, some of us are in elder, some of us are in adult. So really starting to do that deeper work is powerful.